So things might always go correctly the first time you publish to Azure, and you might run into problems like this. A student emailed me they were getting this kind of an error screen, and I just thought I'd share with you some things you could do in a situation like this, right? Notice it mentions that the development environment, okay, shouldn't be enabled for deployed applications, but, right? If you want to see the sensitive information about exceptions, right, you have to do it this way. So I'm just going to bring up a notepad for a second to make note here that basically the setting called ASP.NET Core environment, right, we would want to set that to development in order to actually get all the details of what's going on. All right, so before I do that change, I'm just saving those settings. Let me point out what I did to get this error, to cause the error in the first place, okay? So what I did is I just came into my connection string and I threw in a subpath, right? Now, not even to a folder that doesn't exist. The data folder exists, but remember I mentioned that you'll get an error if you don't just have the database sitting right in the root, okay? And of course, to make it actually try to create it, I had to come in here and uncomment out those lines in the program.cs that run when the application starts up to actually generate and see the database if it's not been done already. So that's what I did to actually create the error. All right, so now let's talk about how to fix it. So before we go to Azure itself, let me point out here under properties, you might have noticed that it's been there all along, okay? Right here under the debug tab, okay? This is the area where we would come in to do things like enable SSL and change our port and so on. Well, look at that environment variable, ASP.NET Core environment set to development, right? So locally, we're already set this way, but that's not these don't get passed up to Azure. Azure has its own set. And you can probably do it through the Cloud Explorer, but I'm more familiar with doing it right through the portal itself. So let's open portal.azure.com. So I just open up that address in a browser. Of course, I'm logged in with my Niagara College account. And to get to the resources, you can go down to all resources. I filtered mine for my Azure for Students subscription right here, right? So here's my medical office, okay? So here is the web app itself, right? So we can change a number of things. In fact, you have very fine control of settings for the actual web app inside of here. Okay, so down the menu on the left side of this blade here, you'll see, well, before I go on to the configuration, let me point out here is our SSL setting. So it used to be, they've nicely changed this, that when we would first publish, it didn't matter what our setting locally was, right? You would have to come in here and turn on HTTPS only to force all requests to go through a secure connection, right? It was a quick thing we used to do. Now they've changed the default, so it's already set this way when we first publish our website. So that's nice. One less step for us to do. But back under here in excuse me, settings configuration, pardon me. Okay, so here we see our various application settings, connection strings, and so on. Now we aren't, this is connection strings mainly to do with SQL Server, which is not a problem for us right now. But here are our application settings, right? So there's a couple here already, but what we can do is we can add a new application setting. Okay, the name, well, we know that, and I put it in my notepad even to make it easy for me, ASP.NET Core environment, okay? And the value we want is deployment. And I can just say okay. And there we go, right? So now we have that in there. And I'll just click refresh. Oh, forgot to click save. Well, there you go. See, you don't always get it right the first time. So let me do it again. See, this is a repeat for those that missed it the first time. You believe me? Okay. All right, now we'll save. Okay. All right, so that did save. Okay, it's updating, successfully updated. We're good to go. All right, so let me come back up here. By the way, of course, here in the overview area is also a link because I think I closed it. So I'll just click that link to actually open the web application again. And here we are. So if I try to log in, there we go. All right, so now it's saying, hey, we haven't applied migrations here for security. Error, right? Okay, let's just try this again. Oh, well, yeah, see, this is what we're getting now. Unable to open database file. So because we're in development mode, we've set that environment setting. That's why I'm seeing this, right? I know now that I'm unable to open the database file, right? SQLite exception, okay? Now, that might not be much, but it tells me generally it's to do with I can't access the file. It doesn't tell me everything about how to fix it, right? But I wouldn't have got this screen with all this detailed information unless I had made that change to the system. So I do know I have to go back once more into here, right? I'll go to my connection string, take out that extra path information, which just causes a problem. There we go. Just save that. We will publish again. And hopefully this time we will not get that internal server error. Right, so let me try logging in. And there we go. So we successfully logged in and I can see patients and doctors and so on. So we're good. So it's working again now, but we never would have gotten this feedback information if we didn't change that setting. All right, so maybe that'll be a bit of a help, right? So again, under configuration, now, as it warns though, you would never want to actually say, okay, my app is ready for public use, right? So we would actually come in and either delete or change the environment, ASP.NET Core environment setting to a different value. Probably you can just delete it, right? Because we no longer need it anymore. All right, so that's a quick help for you if you get stuck in a position like that.